Hi there, welcome to this presentation about master projects on the UvA, the VU, and possibly other institutions on problem solving. My name is Daan van den Berg. Here you can reach me by email. And as you can see, I have a number of master projects on different tracks within different universities. Now, the thing is that if my PowerPoint works, that these different tracks, they all have different sizes of master projects. So to this end, to make these master projects universally applicable, but also to keep track of progress and keep it a bit manageable and not feel it like a heap of work, I have come up with this kind of a block system. Right? And I have 3 examples for you, and I will run through them smoothly. So this is example number 1. It's a master project in frequency fitness assignment, which is a concept which has been done, has been invented by Thomas Weise. He's German, but he has a lab in China, in UvA University, if I'm not mistaken. And basically what he does is he doesn't steer evolutionary algorithms to find the best solution, but to find it so that it has the rarest fitness or the rarest objective function, if you like. So that's a very new way of controlling these algorithms. And whether it's a good way, we'll have to see about that. Thomas claims yes. Well, we'll see about that for ourselves. And maybe discover some other properties in the process. But the whole idea is that this master project has 3 blocks, and depending on the size of your master project, you can either do 1, 2, or 3 of these blocks, which are all between 15 and 18 EC. Right? And block 1, usually in these projects, a preliminary version of which you can find below the comments in YouTube, is a bit of replication. So we just take a very small paper and replicate a very small part of it. That's good because you can already see the target for where you're going, and you can relatively easy implement it and close the block. And then depending on the size of your project, you can choose another 15 to 18 EC block and even a third. And they're not necessarily in this order, although I would always very strongly recommend you to do block 1 first, because I've written them up so that you can easily, at master level of course, but easily make that a success. Right. A second example is this one. It's a thing that I dreamed up with Peter Adriaans. And we think we have an alternative view of what makes the traveling salesman problem hard or not so hard for branch and bound algorithms. And we just want to give it a go. It has something to do with the distribution of informational bits. And again, we start off with a replication study. In this case, it might be a little bigger, and if it turns out to be too big, we might break it up. We have to see about that or put limitations, because you don't want to do too little work for your thesis, but you also don't want to do too much work because you can get burned out or whatever. But it begins again with a replication, and then you can do something with evolutionary algorithms in there. I have very clear ideas, but as you progress, you get a little more of your own space, and then even use the informational bits. And you see here, there's 4 blocks. Block 1 is very strongly recommended. After that, we can discuss which block you want to do, and we can just Lego them together in some way that you would like to do it. Third is a project which I stole from Manu Rosenberg, who is a German woman doing research in Australia. That has to do with finding Steiner trees on maps with obstacles, and it even has 5 blocks. There is not one master study that can accommodate 5 blocks of between 15 to 18 EC. So again, you can just choose 3. First do block 1, please, because that will give you a success and a way to move on. And then you can just Lego along as you wish, or well, we have to discuss that, of course, but as you wish, more or less. And if a block turns out to be very much too small, because I'm just making guesses, of course, and science takes its own twists and turns, then we'll make it a little bigger. And if it turns out to be too big, then we'll make it a little smaller. But usually my guesses are about right. Okay, so how do we work? So what I intend to do is have these regular meetings with you and with other master students, depending on whether we have VU or UvA students, but it's going to be in Amsterdam, and we'll talk. So we'll do presentations, 1 or 2 or 3 in an afternoon, and we'll talk about these projects. And by knowing these other students and knowing all their related projects, because all these projects are somewhat interrelated, you can progress much easier, and you don't have the feeling that you have to do it alone, right? We have kind of a team. So after we've done a block, we're going to close it, and we're going to write during that process. We're not going to wait until the end. We're going to start in the process, because for many students, this is a hurdle. And we don't want to complete a whole investigation and then look up to a mountain of writing that still has to be done and get all depressed and stuff like that. We're going to write very small parts in between, so that we're very much underway of a complete thesis after the experimentation is done. But we'll get there, don't worry. Okay, in the end, you are responsible for your thesis, but I do give advice, and I give you 1 full review, and I can only give you 1 because it's too much work otherwise, right? And then I annotate anything like this is wrong, this is wrong, this is good, this could be better, this absolutely no go, don't do it, and to safeguard you a little bit from very hard, from very wrong mistakes. So yeah, to safeguard you from that. We also work with collaborators. I've shown a couple of them, and they are very nice to get information from and sometimes give their advice or give comments. But in the end, you are responsible. You can take on their comments, you can take on their advice. You have to make choices in that. You can reflect with me. But we have a lot of people available. And about these theses, in the end, you will run into problems. This is research. Research takes its own twists and turns, and sometimes stuff fails or ideas fail, and usually even failed ideas, we can get them to some extent to work. So don't worry about them too much. But the point is that you have to identify these problems and talk to me about it. Right. So if you find any problems, for instance, you can get some code, you can't get it to work, or your motivation is gone, which is a possibility, or you're afraid of presentation, or you don't have enough concentration, or you get into a depression or whatever. Personal problems. I mean, shit happens, to say it like that. And but the point is to identify it, because then we can solve it. Right? So just talk to me and we'll get it done. Okay, so the priorities in this trajectory are in this order, in descending order. First of all, that you graduate. Second of all, that you are happy and look back on the trajectory as that was a great trajectory, and maybe it was tough, maybe it wasn't so tough. We're not going to make it tougher than necessary. But that you feel successful, you feel good about the trajectory, but it's a little bit less important than your graduation. So if it takes me some force to put on you to get graduated, then I will do so. Graduating on time is really close to being happy, so we don't want delays if we can avoid those. Usually we can avoid those. So we want to graduate on time, and if that all works, then we want to graduate with a good grade for you, so that you can look back at, hey, I have a good grade for my master's thesis. After that has all been completed, and that can be very long trajectories sometimes, especially for master students, AI at the UvA, then optional, and this is all free time for both you and me and possibly other students, is we could write a paper maybe and get it submitted, and then you get reviews from experts in the field. That's a really nice experience. If it is good enough, we can even publish it. And if it's good enough to submit it, and that is if you do it with me as your co-author, then I make sure that it's good enough to submit it, that the quality of the language, the quality of the figures, the quality of research, and everything is good. Even if it's a small piece, that the quality is good enough, then we can probably or maybe publish it and maybe even defend it. And after that has happened, sometimes we can gain some traction with papers, win prizes, make a few more papers, and build on your professional reputation to get a good job once you leave university or once you have left university. So I think that's it. Some collaborators. So I have shown Manu, Thomas, and Peter already. And these gentlemen are Eric Fraga and Abdallah Salhi. And these are the people mainly that work on these kind of projects for their work, so professionally. There's lots of other people like Wouter and Misha Pau and a number of other people that occasionally join in discussions. Also former students that have already worked on your project, and well, they can help, and it's nice to be part of a community, and makes it less heavy to complete a project like that. And finally, if there are some questions left about how these things go and you want to hear from former students, you can take contact with any of these. Wouter is the only one that is still somewhat attached to me, as he is a somewhat remote colleague of mine, but he has graduated with me and published his work. Igor has also graduated with me and published his work. He was an international exchange student from Croatia, very tough guy. David van Erkelens has also published his work and went to Portugal to defend it. If you Google his name, you can find him and done his work with me. And Niels Brouwer has just graduated very recently and wants to publish his work, but they all know how the process goes, and many of them also know how publication trajectory goes. Reach out to them by email, or if you really wish, by telephone. They are available for that, so I'm very grateful for that. Okay, so preliminary projects are in the link below. It all depends on whether the board of your track approves of them, which ones will be available to you, but at least you can have a look, and in case of any questions or remarks or ideas or whatever, just drop me a line and we'll be in touch. Okay, whether you choose one of mine or no, I hope you have a very good master's thesis time and a happy life. Bye-bye.